What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little Destiny commentary. And today we're actually going to be discussing the Strike the Dreadnought reveal stream that Bungie did on Wednesday this week. Of course, these next few Wednesdays they're doing the Twitch reveal streams for the Taken King. And I just figured I would post my commentary and sort of reaction and response to what we saw yesterday. Now, if you guys did miss the stream, I will link it below. You can go watch it archived on their Twitch channel. I'll just be honest, you guys really didn't miss much, but I'll kind of cover the basics right away. The stream was kind of lackluster. It wasn't really that great, and I'll sort of get into that at the end of the video. First, I'm going to kind of cover what they went over in the stream. First thing was they had a lot of technical issues with the stream. It was about 15 minutes late getting started. The power went out at Bungie, or they blew a fuse or something, but they were about 15 minutes late getting the actual stream started. So that kind of, put a damper on things from the get-go. Now this stream, of course, Deej was there. They also had Cosmo, the two community managers, and they also had Mr. Fruit as the community representative from YouTube. That's something I'm going to talk about here towards the end of the video. They also had James Tsai, who is the leader, design lead expert on strikes in Destiny. And then they had Claude Jerome, who is the sandbox designer for Destiny. So the fire team that went through and played the strike was Cosmo, Claude Jerome, and then Mr. Fruit. So it was very interesting, a little bit of an underwhelming stream. They started off showing off the new subclasses for each of the new characters, and they spent about 15 minutes on this, which is information we already knew and have already seen at length. Now, there are going to be some minor changes coming to a few of the subclasses regarding some grenades and some jumps and other things, but none of this was major. None of it was worthy of having to take up time on a reveal stream for, when they could have been showing us other stuff. Like I said, this is information a lot of us already knew, information a lot of the Destiny YouTubers have already put out there for everybody to go over. So this was not anything that I think they should have spent time on. So that kind of was a little annoying, but at least, you got a little bit of an in-depth look at some of the new perks and things on the subclasses. So if you guys didn't know much about those, you can go and watch, and you'll be able to see exactly what some of the new subclasses are going to have. After that, they did go briefly over the new artifacts, which that was something they said was going to be a highlight of the stream, and they spent probably maybe, I don't know, a minute and a half on it. But artifacts they're something that we saw in the stream last week, but we didn't really get much information on them. They're actually going to be kind of like subclass specific items that basically help certain abilities. We saw one that was called Radagast Blade. It had more discipline and strength for your character, and it improved different abilities with your subclass. So those are going to be kind of interesting. They didn't, like I said, they didn't cover those too much in depth. We didn't get to see a whole lot. They only showed them very briefly for each class, but it looks like it's going to be kind of a neat little item that will add more power to your character. So right after they spent, they wasted the 15 minutes or so going over the subclasses, they went into the new strike, which is the Shield Brothers. It's on the Dreadnought, in orbit of Saturn on Oryx's Dreadnought. And they got into the strike and decided to play it. Now, Mr. Fruit, unfortunately, is and he even mentioned this in the video, self-proclaimed a PvP player. So he's not a very solid PvE player when it comes to Destiny, and this pretty much showed throughout the stream, unfortunately. The other guys, Cosmo, seemed to be pretty confused most of the time and didn't really know what he was doing. And this is a complaint I'm going to discuss, towards the end of the video. But they got into the strike, and he basically sat down in the Dreadnought. And in typical fashion, as most of the strikes already work in Destiny, they completely skipped the first mobs. They ran through everything. It was pretty hilarious. It's just like people do in the game right now. So that's pretty clear. That aspect of strikes is still going to be there, where you rush past the first mobs and don't even bother to kill them, and just to get to the middle of it. Basically, in this strike, the Cabal are trying to blow up the Dreadnought, which I find kind of hilarious because, Oryx is this big bad guy. He's supposed to be this really, amazing, terrifying enemy. And the Cabal are trying to blow up his ship, and we're trying to stop them. Now, Deej said the reason is because there's all this treasure and stuff on the Dreadnought and all these secrets we want to find. But plot-wise, I think that's kind of stupid. My whole thing is, enemy of my enemy is my friend. If the Cabal want to blow up the Dreadnought and destroy Oryx, well, let them have at it. That's fine. So plot-wise, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But hey, this is Destiny we're talking about. There's really not, I mean, what is the plot? And what does make sense in this game? Anyways, moving on. So as they move through this strike, there were some interesting things. There are now booby traps in parts of the strike. There was one part where the guys went down a hallway they weren't supposed to go to, and these little holes in the floor shot out fire. Nothing crazy. It was kind of interesting, but it was just kind of to block off the direction they didn't want them to go in. Now, in the middle of the strike, they had to fight a land tank. If you guys have played the Valis strike, you know at the middle section you have to kill his 3 lieutenants, and then you fight the 4th guy in the land tank. Well, they had a land tank actually inside the Cabal ship that they went into. So this is kind of just like the Shadow Thief strike that came out with House of Wolves, where you have to fight the spider tank inside the fallen catch. So not a new mechanic there. A lot of people I see are talking about how that's so cool, but guys, that's not a new mechanic. We've already seen that. First off, most of the strikes now have a tank boss or something you have to fight in the middle section. And also we've seen that in the Shadow Thief having to fight a tank boss inside the actual ship. So that was there. The strike had the same enemies as usual as the Cabal. Now they did say that there were certain times you'll replay strikes and they'll have taken and different enemies and things like that, but we did not see any evidence of that in the stream. So they were just fighting your run-of-the-mill Centurions and Legionaries and everything else, so nothing altogether spectacular there. Pretty run-of-the-mill. It took them about 10 minutes to get to the boss fight, which that's pretty typical of strikes now, and I think that was kind of slow because the 3 guys that were playing the strike really did not seem to be very good at the game, unfortunately. So it took them a while to get through it, and they got to the bosses, like I said, in about 10 minutes. Now the boss fight does have some different mechanics in a way. People are really, some people weren't very impressed with it. Some people are saying it's really groundbreaking and all this, which I'm sort of in the middle. I don't think it's either. This strike to me felt like just a regular run-of-the-mill strike. Now I know there were some different things going on. You fight the Shield Brothers, which are 2 different Cabal. One has a giant jetpack on his back. The other one has a giant cannon on his back. And what happens is the first guy comes out, he's got the giant jetpack, and he chases you around in a circle, and he tries to basically dive bomb you. Think of the Archon Priest, where he chases you around the map and basically tries to do that giant slam, and if you get caught in that, it either sends you flying off the map or you die. It's pretty much the same thing that the first Cabal boss came out and did. So really, like I said, I don't think it's a groundbreaking mechanic. A lot of people are like, oh my god, this is so amazing, but I think it's something that's in a way already kind of in the game with certain, when you get to certain bosses. So I think they borrow that a little bit from that strike, but nothing amazing there. So after you get him down to 50% health, he ends up retreating back outside, and he runs back out of the room, and then the other Shield Brother comes in, and he's got this giant cannon on his back, and it shoots these huge energy blasts at you, and the floor of the strike will actually be painted with these circles that will tell you where they're going to land. So he basically you have to keep running, constantly stay on the run as he's firing these blasts at you, and that is kind of a new mechanic, seeing where they're going to go on the ground. Seeing where they're being targeted. Now that's not new for video games. That's been featured in a lot of different boss fights in other gaming series, but it's new for Destiny, I guess. So that's why people, I suppose, are so excited, because a lot of the fans of Destiny don't seem to realize that there's other video games out there that exist for some odd reason. But it was very interesting, but at the same time, it reminds me a lot of the Nexus boss fight with Sekrion, because all he does is basically has those huge void cannons, and he's just constantly bombarding you with splash damage and energy attacks, and you have to constantly stay on the move and keep moving behind cover and, running around that circle there to avoid getting just completely destroyed by those Vex cannons he's using on you. So, in this strike, in a way, to me, it kind of seemed like they took some mechanics out of existing strikes. The way I looked at it was, if you took the Archon Priest and the Nexus boss and just put them together, it would kind of be like that, except these guys are Cabal, obviously. And the room was a little bit more wide open. There wasn't a whole lot of cover in this room, so you did have to constantly stay on the move. And of course, since it's a strike in Destiny, there were tons of ads, and again, the ads sort of took over the fight. The bosses themselves were not very difficult, it didn't seem. And the designers did say they're trying to eliminate the whole bullet sponge boss thing, and they want to concentrate more on mechanics of the strike. So in a way, they did succeed with that a little bit. That was kind of nice to see. You didn't have to spend as much time whittling down the bosses. And like I said, the mechanics did cause you to have to stay on the move around the room. A little bit more active, which is good, because the strikes definitely need that. Strikes right now are too much of just standing in the same place and shooting the boss over and over again. So that was good to see that in a way, but again, there's just too many mobs, too many ads. They just focus too much on artificially increasing the difficulty on these strikes by just throwing a ton of ads at you, instead of just making the strike, I guess, more exciting and more in-depth. But overall, that is basically what we saw there. Now, after you whittle each boss down to 50% health, they will both come out for a while and attack you with the ads. So you'll get both bosses at the same time, and that's when things get a little hairy. You got to really be kind of on the move. And then when you kill one boss, whichever boss you kill first, the other boss actually inherits his abilities, so that you have to continue to deal with both sets of issues. And one boss does have a giant dome shield that he will put up, kind of like the Titan's Ward of Dawn, that you can't do any damage through, so you have to go in there and kind of fight him at close range. So it'll be interesting to see how this strike works when they get to see it in the game. But it took them about 15 minutes altogether to beat it. So again, like I said, that's nothing different than what's already in the game. A lot of the strikes now are easy to beat. They go through very quickly. So this was just kind of run-of-the-mill, more of the just mindless grind content that they've already got in the game. Like I said, nothing majorly in depth. The people that are saying it's all groundbreaking and these are new mechanics and things are overreacting a little bit. And the people that were saying it was just absolutely terrible are also overreacting. I'm somewhere in the middle. I wasn't very impressed with it. But at the same time, it's nice to see they're actually trying to focus on some mechanics outside of just having bullet sponge bosses. Now, they did say that the bosses now are supposedly going to have their own loot tables. You'll get your own specific loot, armor, weapons, and things that will drop from certain bosses. However, when they completed this strike, the only thing that we saw them get were 20 Vanguard marks, a rare weapon, and some resupply codes, which are already in the game. That's basically something you get, which gives you more glimmer when you kill off Cabal. So we didn't get to really see too many rewards there. It wasn't anything special at all. I'm sure they're going to save that for later. They don't want us to see that just yet. But that was pretty much it for the stream, guys. I mean, they went through, they did this. I mean, it maybe took them 20 minutes to get through this stream after they were done, wasting all that time with the subclass stuff. So yeah, that was pretty much it. We just got to look at the strike. Like I said, it's nothing special. It's nothing terrible either. So I think there's a lot of people on either side here. The only thing I'm going to say is really this did nothing else to convince me to want to pre-order Taken King. It did. Neither stream they've done so far has shown me anything that's going to be different with Taken King so far. And one thing I will point out, guys, I was going to do a separate video on this, but I'll just mention it here. There was a really good article, I believe it was either GameSpot or Kotaku put out, where they basically got kind of a side interview with Bungie. Of course, Game Informer is getting all the main stuff, but and they basically got Bungie to admit that with the Taken King, if you don't buy the Taken King, you're still going to get the majority of the game improvements. You'll still get the leveling to level 40. You'll still be able to buy vendor gear in the tower. You'll still be able to use the light system. The only thing, obviously, you're not going to be able to go to the Dreadnought. You won't be able to play some of the Taken King content. But at the same time, if you don't pre-order and you don't buy the Taken King, you are still going to get the majority of the changes. And this is kind of like with House of Wolves, where they kind of sold all the changes and everything as being part of the DLC, when in reality, all you were really paying for was getting some of the new strikes and the Prison of Elders. And it wasn't a whole lot of stuff you were actually paying for in the end. But with Taken King, it's kind of going to be the same way. You're going to get the changes regardless, and you're going to wind up paying $40 for just a few, some of the new story content and things. Everybody will be getting the new Ghost Voice and the new reworked quest system and all that stuff, regardless of whether or not you buy the DLC. So just thought I'd throw that in there in case some of you guys are still on the fence and you're worried about waiting. I would say still wait. Definitely you don't want to. If you're still on the fence with Taken King, so far they haven't really shown much to bring us off the fence, at least in my opinion. That's what I would say here. That's one of the things about this stream. Now I'm going to kind of get into a critique of the stream a little bit. This kind of reminds me of what they did with the House of Wolves, where the first stream came out and it was like, oh, look at all the shiny new armor and the shiny new gear. Look at all the new toys we're giving you to play with. And it was actually a pretty solid stream. I still think, whether or not you like King Gathalion, I think he actually did a pretty good job on that first stream by asking some interesting questions and trying to keep Bungie kind of on topic with what they were doing to improve the game. And then it was like after that stream, Bungie was like, okay, we can't have anybody questioning us on stream anymore. So they just brought in some guests who were kind of scripted and kept everything quiet. And the streams were very boring afterwards, didn't really show off too much. And they kind of followed that script with this one here. And like I said, it was a very lackluster stream overall. Mr. Fruit, I don't know. In my personal opinion is I really wish Bungie would stop bringing in these community, what they call them, community leaders, whatever. But I really wish they'd stop bringing in these YouTube and Twitch personalities because, I'm not a 12-year-old. I'm not a little kid who follows these people. I'm not, or I'm not a grown adult who foams in the mouth over people that do YouTube and stream. But I really wish they would do a more professional setting. The Vidocs and the things they did back in 2013 and even in 2014 a little bit, where they were getting ready for E3. Heck, even the Taken King kind of interview they had, where they had the developers sitting down and they were talking to them. I'd rather have something like that where they show us the features of the game, rather than having to listen to one of these Twitch streamers or YouTubers come on and make bad jokes and just try to be entertaining when all we want to find out is information about the game. We don't need to see this, and I know why Bungie's doing this, because obviously these Twitch streamers, these YouTube personalities, they have a big time following, and when they get on these streams, Bungie is counting on their following to come with them and sort of watch and improve their viewer numbers for their own stream. And they're hoping, obviously, that this will influence more people to purchase the game. So I know why they're doing it. And I understand it, but at the same time, I really wish they would give us a more competent and a more professional stream setting, because they wind up just looking really, really bad. And like I said, and the funny thing was, they had a YouTube, they had an audience, a live studio audience, as they called it, and it was actually a bunch of Destiny YouTubers sitting in the back of the room, politely clapping as if it was like this scripted thing, acting all excited for what they were seeing with the new strike. So that was pretty hilarious. I had just found that really funny. And overall, like I said, the streams are kind of a joke. They seem like they're scripted in a way. And I really just wish they would give us more information and less trying to be funny and appeal to little kids and all the other stuff they're doing. It really gets kind of aggravating, and the way Deej talks to us like we're all children, like we don't know what's going on. Like, really, just give us a competent stream. And like I said, there was absolutely nothing in this stream to convince me that I need to pre-order Taken King, and there hasn't been so far. It looks like more of the same. Yes, there are some very, very minor changes coming to strikes. Nothing groundbreaking, like I said earlier. But again, no reason to pre-order the Taken King. Really, no reason to get excited for it. I haven't yet to see anything. I'm really more interested. What I want to hear, the major thing they're talking about they're changing is that the narrative's going to be changing. They're adding in all these cutscenes. They're going to be giving us this amazing story now. That's what I want to see. I don't care about any of the other stuff, because I didn't come on to Destiny to play mindless grindfest. I came on to Destiny because I was promised this sci-fi epic story that was going to be like a crossover between Mass Effect and Halo, like a first-person shooter but with rich lore and a rich story. And the game does have some really good lore. The problem is, obviously, it's just not the game. And they say they're going to be changing that by letting your ghosts scan objects in the environment, by putting in more narrative, by adding in more character detail. That's what I want to hear about. I don't care about the Shield Brothers strike. I don't care about seeing the pointless grind that we're still going to have to play. I want to know what you're doing to put lore in the game. I want to see that in action. That's what I want to see. That's what's going to convince me to come back and play this game, is if I see that there's a competent story now actually in the game and that I don't have to go outside to find it. So that's what I want to see from Bungie. I don't want to see, kind of this lackluster in-game content that's pretty similar to what we already have. I want to see some of the newer features they're talking about. I want to see a little bit more in depth on the new weapons and the light system and things like that, instead of just a 5-minute gloss over like they had in the prior stream. So that's my main gripe with these Bungie streams, is they seem to be very unprofessional. They're just, I don't know, it's like a big joke. So that's really, the last stream they did, they had Cosmo doing this whole running joke behind the vault space thing. Instead of asking actually good questions from the community, it became a running joke about vault space. It was very scripted. So that really gets a little bit aggravating at times. And like I said, the last thing I'll talk about is Bungie, if you're going to have people on your stream to play your game, please make sure they actually know what they're doing. I mean, that's been a problem. Maybe we can go back to the Prison of Elders reveal when they had Professor Broman, and he's, I'm not a fan of his. I don't watch his stream. I don't really watch too many of these people. I don't really get the obsession, the fascination with YouTubers and streamers, but he was not very good for the Prison of Elders reveal, and Deej was not very good, and the other guy that was playing with them, who I can't remember right now, they weren't very good at the game. They didn't really seem to know what they were doing. They didn't have good teamwork tactics. They didn't play very well together. They didn't really know how to use their subclasses or their weapons. and it made Prison of Elders look really terrible because they couldn't get through it. And I don't know if they were trying to artificially show that it was harder than it really is, because Prison of Elders is not that difficult. But the same thing happened here. You had Cosmo, who looked like he'd never played Destiny before. I mean, he died right off, like within 5 seconds of the first strike. It was pretty funny. Mr. Fruit proclaimed at the beginning that he's not a PvE player. He doesn't even play PvE. He just does PvP. And most of their developers, you know, these guys claim they play this game all day long, but whenever they get on these streams and try to play in these environments, they just really don't look like they're very competent at the game. So I just wish Bungie would go back to a style like they did with the video documentaries they did back in 2013. Of course, that's back when Joe was still there. Joe was doing a lot of those, and like the reveal we got at E3 2013 when they went and played through some of the game, that was amazing because you had the developers talking about what they were doing. They were actually pretty good at the game, and they just kind of gave us clear, concise information. It wasn't, oh, let's get some Twitch personality on here and ha ha ha, have a big fun time and laugh about things while not telling anybody anything about the important stuff that's coming in the game and just showing them off, you know, the strikes and things. So that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, I wasn't impressed, but at the same time, I think there were some interesting things, and it's good they're trying to freshen up the strikes a little bit. You know, change in that way is good for the game, but I'm not going to sit here and, you know, do what a lot of the other YouTubers are doing and sit here and say, oh, it's so groundbreaking, and, you know, pump Bungie's tires for them for putting a very minor change in the game, because that stuff should have already been in there. That's my thing, but I still think Taken King is missing out on a lot of glaring problems with the game, specifically in PvP, specifically with matchmaking, and other things. And I'll probably do a video on that. I'm working on the video where I'm talking about the major things that they should be working on at Taken King that they're ignoring right now, but I'll put that together later on. Just wanted to come on and give my thoughts about the stream, the reveal that they did, and see what you guys thought about it. I know some people were impressed, like I said. Some people were not very happy. I'm somewhere in the middle, and like I said, I have still seen absolutely nothing from Bungie that shows me I should pre-order the Taken King. Like I said, I want to know more about the narrative. I want to know more about the ghost scanning objects, lore objects in the game. That's what I'm here to find out. I don't care about already current stuff that's in the game. You know, Grindfest that's going to be reinstituted. Oh, and just my personal opinion, Nolan North sounds terrible as the ghost, and I'll close with that. I don't know what you guys thought. I thought he sounded awful. I don't know. It still baffles me why Bungie didn't go with Peter Dinklage's original voice acting work that we saw at E3 in 2013. You know, and I'm tired of Dinklage getting a bad rap because he did a very good job at first, and I have a video on that. But then they decided to go with the very bland build with him, and it sounds terrible. So, but anyways, Nolan North, yeah, doesn't sound all that great, at least in my opinion. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for the Shield Brothers Strike the Dreadnought reveal stream commentary. Feel free to comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Would love to hear your thoughts. And that's going to do it for me, guys. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time.